Today's special guest doesn't chase ADP. ADP chases him. That, some charts, and some yards per route run discourse. Let's have a day.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer.
Mr. Sam Sherman. Got a good sort of 50-50 guess, honestly. Some people, honestly, not hip enough to ADP chasing lore to know that you were the guest from the thumbnail, but many of the people obviously knew that that you were going to be the man. So yes, Sam, of course, just got off his corporate call. He unmuted, said nothing from my end, and now is hopping on. I can only assume you have saved your most nuclear takes for the program today.
Yeah, having to quote unquote retire from the fantasy football industry, I just have like a backlog of takes that I haven't been able to get off as I sit at my desk every day, in a cubicle. So I'm excited for this one, Davis. Yeah, I've been, staying tuned in to what's going on a little bit. So excited to maybe do a draft and chat through some of these ADPs we're seeing.
I mean, sadly, we just don't have anything really dividing the community quite yet. I mean, it's probably a little bit too early. It's May 22nd right now. We haven't started fight. No one really wants to put their name on, Brock Bowers' worst pick in the second round. Maybe the closest thing you'd get is some people are like, dude, I'm not taking RJ Harvey in the fifth round. But, by and large, I'm trying to think of what would I define as kind of the argument? Because even the slappies are so beat down by what running backs did to them last year that they're like, sure, sometimes you got to just take Joe Mixon in the fifth round, right? The will, because coming off of 2023, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, there were enough kind of zero running back hits that the slappies were full of piss and vinegar. They're like, yeah, we're going to win in 2024. It's our year. So the online discourse, man, it's we're missing the arguments.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed a concerning lack of yelling at each other on ADP chasing. That used to be kind of a classic staple of the show. Although it has got a little bit more contentious with you and Jacob recently talking about fast players. So
Jacob, I mean, maybe no more person. I've done a lot of shows with Jacob, and I'm just now discovering that basically once a guy runs a 4.3, he's
Jacob's
out.
Yeah,
he's just out. Yeah, it's and then of all the slappy players, for Jaden Reed to be the guy that he's sticking his his slappy badge to. I mean, come on, people are asking, who's this year's Travis Homer? Is it Elijah Mitchell on the Kansas City Chiefs? That is my guess. $3.5 million. What's going on there?
That's a good one. I think I've been trying to find the guy who's going to get traded to the Cowboys still, because I still don't believe they're going into the season with Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. So Devin Singletary, Antonio Gibson. I feel like these running back trades are always more theoretical than actually happening, but I don't know. I wonder if one of these veterans that's kind of buried right now could shake loose still in a trade. This year's Travis Homer, though.
All the Cowboys reporters have said they're done. Running back, they're fine with Jaden Blue, Javonte Williams, and Miles Sanders, and Phil Maffa, who is the largest man alive. I mean, I'm trying. Maybe it could be Antonio Gibson on the Patriots. And Antonio Gibson is the fly in the ointment for 6th round pick Travion Henderson.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Patriots might be kind of done with him, but we'll see there. I don't know. I do think the most likely outcome in Dallas is they just stick with the trio of guys they have there, but man, it's just ugly.
So, per the normal data, you've cooked up a beautiful yards per route run chart. So this is for the 2021 to 2023 rookie classes, second and fourth year players, famous fifth round pick out of BYU. Have you been able to do a show, victory lapping the demise of Cooper Kupp? Because you kind of stopped in week 12 was your last week last year?
Yeah. I kind of
that.
stopped when I think that was kind of when he came back and had one or two okay games.
Remember for a 70-yard touchdown where he was totally uncovered? He just walked into the end zone. That touchdown did a lot of heavy lifting. Also for his yards per route run numbers. I've seen people arguing this, his yards per route run, I think it was 2.1 still last year. But I'm I don't know. If you take away that one play, I think it starts to get pretty dark.
Yeah, it starts to get really bad. And then if you also look at the reception perception, some of the film charting on him, it completely fell off a cliff last year. Even my argument with Kupp going into last year was hey, he's not completely done, but he's definitely tailing off, flashing some warning signs, constantly banged up. But I think last year, just the fact that the Rams gave up on him, I think is the biggest warning sign to me. They opted to go with Devontae Adams, re-signed Tutu Atwell, and just basically cutting Cooper Kupp for nothing. That's really scary. So yeah, I never got to victory lap how right I was about Cooper Kupp. That's sad, but I guess I'll get to now.
True. So it's actually stunning. 2.9 yards per route run for Puka.
It's insane.
2.4 for Rashi, 2.3 for Nico. So all these, all the way. St. Brown, Chase, Olave, London, Reed, Waddle, Watson, Rashid Shaheed, Zay Flowers, all over too. A little bit of inconvenient truth there, by the way, for Marvin Mims being ahead of Devonta Smith, Khalil Shakir, George Pickens, Tank Dell. I'm not saying, but I am saying that's a little bit of an inconvenient truth for some of the haters.
Yeah, that's it'd be nice if you could do that on more than 40% routes per game, but he was definitely efficient last year. That definitely stood out. But yeah, I think the main takeaway from this chart, which you've touched on, is just Puka Nacua is in another world compared to all these guys in terms of yards per route run. I think the only concern with him, Davis, is does his style of play lead to more injuries than you'd typically expect for a top 10 wide receiver? Because all the per route, per game metrics are off the charts with him. It's just really the injury concern is all there is. I think that's the only thing that's holding him back from not being a top 5 pick up there with Jefferson and Chase. He has just been insane to start his career.
Yeah, and now I think even Devontae Adams, you'd be hard pressed to say, yeah, Devontae Adams is going to meaningfully take away from his target share, right?
Yeah,
it would be awesome if Devontae Adams could contribute and help the Rams be better, but there is absolutely no chance that Devontae Adams out targets Puka Nacua over any sort of meaningful sample. The most interesting thing here to me is fan favorites, JMO, Dontavian Wicks, and Jauan Jennings. And by fan favorites, I mean me. I'm the fan of these three players. It's because their rookie samples were so bad. Well, JMO rookie year sample really bad. Dontavian Wicks horrible sophomore sample. And then Jauan Jennings, dude. What do you?
Yeah.
I feel like I need the Sam Sherman branded take on Jauan Jennings, who currently right now is a 6th round pick and the highest drafted 49ers wide receiver.
Man, I wish you could come in here with a definitive take. I find the 49ers wide receiver trio really, really challenging to figure out this year. I think with Jauan Jennings, I don't have the exact splits pulled up now, but I think when you look at his historical data, it's massively skewed by the fact that he's played alongside just studs at every position throughout his career. He's always been playing behind Debo and Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. So all the per route metric stuff, when you're the third wide receiver running behind, like, in each of those guys prime, like top 10, top 5 at their position skill players, your per route metrics are just not going to look good. Now, when one of those guys has been off the field, which we saw last year in spades, all of a sudden his per route metrics jump way up. He was targeted at really high rates. So I think overall I'm buying Jennings this year. I think like him and Pearsall, I both want pretty high exposure to, just given how good the 49ers offense could be. Ayuk for me is just the tough one with the injury. It's always so tough the first year back from these multi-ligament ACL tears. So I think I'm buying overall on Jennings, despite like his career metrics not looking particularly special.
Yeah, I'm buying Jennings in spite of myself. He has a great opportunity to be the Marquez Callaway, right?
Yeah.
Of the oh my God, do you remember when we drafted the wide receiver 3 of a team that threw 480 passes in the 6th round of drafts? Like, oh, it turns out Ayuk was just totally good to go week 1. It turns out Ricky Pearsall got shot before his rookie year. And so that is like a great explanatory variable for why it took him forever to break out. George Kittle stayed fully healthy. McCaffrey stayed fully healthy. And he was just like the literal 5th option, like it's,
yeah,
you
possible.
don't even have to squint and see it. He was the literal 5th option. Like, so he obviously he has this breakout season last year, 113 targets. But if you look at, his game logs last year, this is what Jennings did before Ayuk got injured. 5 for 64 week 1, 2 for 37 the next week. He has this crazy game against the Rams, 11 for 75 and 3. I mean, just truly unbelievable.
Maybe the number one, was that the highest scoring week of any wide receiver last season? It had to be up there.
One of the Chase games ended up being better than it, but it was the second. And it's a top 25 all-timer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely see the downside for Jennings. I just think like you can paint the downside scenario for both the other wide receivers as well. With Pearsall having, I'm giving some credit to Pearsall with the getting shot thing, but not the best rookie season by any means. Ayuk looked bad last year, even before the injury. That the multi-ligament stuff just scares me. So I definitely hear where people are coming from on like the Jennings fears, but I don't know. It's not like these other 2 top options at wide receiver.
That's the thing, is that there's enough questions about Ayuk. There's enough questions about Pearsall. There's enough questions. Frankly, there's enough questions about Pearsall's prospect profile that even like had he had just a let's say he had a Xavier Worthy rookie season, right? But he came with the rookie profile that he had, I still would be like, well, it's possible that Ricky Pearsall is no good, right? Or it's possible that Jennings is better than him. I think I would have to check my exposures. I would guess that even now I'm over the 8.3% of the market on all of them. And I think Jennings is my most drafted wide receiver, but part of that is just like market dynamics. Like he's available. I think he's wide receiver 37 right now. So you can just kind of take him, and he falls some, but, and then Rashad Bateman there at the end, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah. And then, I guess on the targets for route run side, the funniest thing here is just Kadarius Toney showing up second here amongst all the 2nd and 4th year wide receivers. I mean, that was always the thing with Toney. You'd have 5 targets on 7 routes. 2 catches, 1 drop that turned into an interception. But anyways, that's a funny one.
Well, what's funny is you see the bottom of this chart, the not great individual season targets per route run. It's a lot of guys who played on good teams, right? So it's like George Pickens, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Jameson. It's just very funny to see Jameson Williams and Quentin Johnston the same number of targets per route run, because our distinction of those players is so different.
Yeah. And Jameson's one where like I think this type of like taking the average of players across their first couple years, like it's good in some ways, it's bad in some ways. Like Jameson Williams, and maybe another example of this is like Nico Collins. Like these are guys that had, in my opinion, at least, massive like step changes in their ability from year 2 to year 3. So like, should we care about Jameson Williams targets per route run as a rookie or even year 2?
Even year 2? No.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think we should. I don't think we should care about Nico Collins' stats, in year 1 with Davis Mills at quarterback. So anyways, like you just have to be careful with the averages. Like sometimes, again, Jauan Jennings, another example, 26% targets per route run in 2024 versus like 14, 17, 18 to start his career. Like with some of these guys, you can, I think, decide to put more weight into the most recent season. Obviously, like environment and players' individual skill has a huge impact on this.
35% targets per route run for Puka. You're right. I think he might be good. I mean, it's sort of interesting to see that Chase, despite his like clear dominance, actually is not he's not a target dominant player in the way that you would think about it. Like this is not a guy who, the way the Bengals have called plays, his max last season was his best season was 175. Like I actually don't even know this. I'm gonna guess Julio Jones had 3 seasons better than that in terms of targets per route run or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean he did basically. Which is just it's Chase is kind of when people who don't like drafting wide receivers, like that's kind of what they conjure up in their head, is a wide receiver who can get 35, but then also has a bunch of, 7 for 43, 5 for 72, 4 for 35 style games in there.
Yeah. Another thing with Chase is like the row that maybe you could add here that's missing is like average team pass attempts per season. And the Bengals are just going to be top 3 in pass attempts like every single year. Right. So he doesn't need the insane volume in the same way some of these other guys do. Davis, I'm curious your take on like the other wide receiver room of having the hardest time figuring out is the Chiefs. So it makes sense you're the Chiefs expert here. Like the Rashee Rice versus Xavier Worthy thing, I find really interesting because I think the general, like when you think of Xavier Worthy in your head, you probably think of the Super Bowl play in garbage time where he runs.
But that's not what happened though.
Yeah, like his actual breakout was a product of them getting him involved in the screen game, the manufactured touch game, which
they changed his role.
Yeah, which is also like how Rashee Rice dominated. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is like who gets the first crack at those type of touches next year. Maybe there's enough to go around for both.
It's Rice definitely gets the first crack. The two things that are keeping both of those Chiefs wide receivers as buys are even the bad Chiefs, right? Even last 2 years, Chiefs are terrible. Back-to-back years, Mahomes finishing outside the top 12 at quarterback, the team just being so frustrating. They still toss the ball around the yard. Mahomes, 3rd in the NFL in pass attempts last season. Like in your mind, think about, dude, the Chiefs, man, they're so annoying. They never scored any points. 3rd in the NFL in pass attempts, 1st in the NFL in pass rate over expectation. A ton of plays that would be for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that would be a 2-yard rush, are 4-yard passes, right?
Yep.
So that just racks up points. The other thing is I'm expecting Kelsey probably to like max out at like a 21% target share. I'd be surprised if he has 100 receptions this season. I mean, he might.
Yeah.
But my gut sense of the Chiefs offense is that Rice will return to be the engine, but Worthy will be like, this is going to sound like a diss, but it's actually a compliment, the best version of the DeMarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, Justin Watson sacrificial guy, but he can also do the short stuff. Like if you want to start complicating the defense, like have Rice run some of the deeper stuff and put Worthy in motion, like actually, kind of like a hybrid of how they would use McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because like you can definitely see the upside case with Worthy where they continue some. Now, I agree with you. I think Rice probably gets the first crack at more of the screens, designed underneath stuff type targets. I do think with Worthy, there's an interesting combo where if he retains some amount of that, plus they use him on the deep shot plays and they just convert more of those. Like you can put together a highlight reel of plays last year where either Worthy, to be honest, Worthy had some sloppy footwork on the sidelines that cost them a couple of those big plays, but also Mahomes just straight up like missed him. And I think they were more Mahomes' fault than Worthy's fault in some of the deep plays last year. So if a couple of more of those connect, plus he gets a little bit of the floor from the scheme.
If he hits 4 of those were last year when they really in the regular season, they hit 1 game against the Chargers. They got 1, right? So if he hits 4 of those instead of 1 of those, and he gets a few of the Rashee Rice across the middle of the field, option route type stuff, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns last year, so he just kind of runs something like that back again. I mean, you are kind of looking at like a guy who like never really plays that well, and then you're like, wait, he finished wide receiver 10? You know, obviously it's all contingent on Mahomes and Matt Nagy pulling their head out of their ass. Like if Mahomes 2023, 2024 joint regular seasons, lowest average depth of target of any player. Mm-hmm. No player. Now, that is also kind of a lying with data thing because, again, the PROE is naturally going to decrease your average depth of target because so many of your plays are going to be substitute run plays. Like all those plays where he pitches it out to Kelsey, who just like stands up and turns around.
Yeah, he's not even running a route. Yeah, it's just like...
That dings his ADOT, but I don't know. I mean, I'm as always, I can't help but be cautiously optimistic. But I am expecting, like, I don't think we will ever see the 2020, 2021 Chiefs ever again. I think that was like a specific moment in time. Top 3 tight end of all time, best deep wide receiver in the league. Like that will probably never happen again. That probably was a moment in time, and we're probably past it now.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, just based on how good that stretch was, I think you're right. I also don't think that like Mahomes has somehow lost the ability to throw the deep ball.
No,
I think that was fluky last year in how bad that connection looked between Worthy and Mahomes. So.
I mean, he had a couple plays at the end of the season. He had one crazy throw against the Steelers. I mean, obviously he was awesome against the Bills. Mm-hmm. In the conference championship. Like he played very well. From week 11 on, he did not throw an interception again until the Super Bowl. You know, like he obviously Mahomes is not bad, but you know, we'll see. All right, we have career PPR points per game, which is, I suppose, what really sort of matters for this exercise, right? And man, show the haters Alec Pierce over Dontavian Wicks and just let them do that.
And Jauan Jennings, sadly, all the way over at the right there.
Josh Palmer ahead of Khalil Shakir. That's a Buffalo Bills ass graphic right there.
Yeah. And again, you can look at, like, I'd encourage people looking at this chart, make sure you look at the individual season, you know, not just the average, because obviously there's some spikiness there that matters. But again, like, I think my big takeaway from this chart is just kind of how flat wide receiver is in terms of
flat.
Yeah, the half PPR scoring. Like you have, I think for these draft classes, there's like 4 guys in my opinion that really stand out. It's Chase, Puka, and Amon-Ra. They're the top 3 on the chart here. And then Nico Collins, if you say he was kind of a late bloomer, just take his last 2 seasons, he would also be with that group. And then after that, you know, it's a really flat tier of guys between 14 and 12 PPR points per game. So it's just a reminder for me that, like, in fantasy, especially at wide receiver, there's always like 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that matter each season. And then a bunch, like from wide receiver 12 to 40, it's usually like extremely flat. So
no one, like, basically like 5 guys matter in fantasy football every year. And weirdly, it's actually more important to get the guy who matters at wide receiver than at running back, because at running back, I mean, again, no one wants to know this, but like Barkley did not have a legendary season last year, did not average what it was 20.5 points per game, I believe, in half PPR. Like worse,
something like that. Yeah.
20.5 points per game in like 1998. Would that have even been a top 5 running back? Like, like no, probably, the guys were insane then. And there are fewer true, I mean, look at this graph. Like there are 3 dudes who are better than 14 points per game,
Yeah. There's less, I think, like target dominant wide receivers than there used to be. I mean, just firing from the hip here, but you had like the Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, like close to 200 target seasons. You don't really see that as often in the past. I think teams are running more 3 wide receiver sets. That kind of spreads out the ball a little bit more. And also pass volume is like down a little bit from its peak in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, I believe. So yeah, there's just it's a little bit less like elite fantasy scoring at both positions, which is interesting. With Barkley,
scoring is just down. I just wrote something on my Patreon the other day. 49.5 points per game in 2020, 43.5 points per game, like just as a whole. And it's so funny, the take I hear a lot on the internet is, oh, well, teams are going to keep running because it worked, right? Last year was the first year since the 90s that running generated positive EPA per play, but scoring was down. Well,
yeah.
Offensive coordinator, we might all think they're stupid. They're not stupid, right? They understand that passing the ball is going to beget more points, which I do think is, sort of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. And I feel like these trends in the NFL always like, the whole, it really comes down to like how defenses are playing. And there's kind of this like cyclical element too, where defenses, are built to stop the pass, and then teams build the counter to that and build more run heavy attacks. And then at some point that'll flip back. Right. So it's like, it's always tough to predict these like league wide structural things. If you want to go forward one more chart here, Davis, I had an updated version of this one. This is another
5 or 6.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah, do the one without the names for a second. I think it's easier to see if you don't mind.
There we go. Yes.
So this one, just talking through this is like slightly different. I took the best 2 seasons for players, and this is a slightly expanded group of players. This is 2020 to 2024 rookie classes. So this includes Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Malik Neighbors as well. If you just take best 2 seasons, half PPR points per game, that's what's shown on the y-axis here. And then look at that versus ADP. Again, I think you see a very similar thing where like, look at the dots on the far left. Those are the elite wide receivers, the really high scoring ones. Plus we're pricing up 3 rookies for year 2 breakouts, which I think is fair. They belong there. And then after that, like starting at pick 25 through like 100, it's just basically a flat line. Like, so I think again, with how wide receiver heavy fantasy has gotten, my take on it at least is like, we should still be taking these wide receivers in round 1 and 2. I think these like top 12 profiles or so we have at wide receiver are like insanely strong bets. And then after that, like, that's where I'm kind of like, is there really a huge difference between Garrett Wilson and Jerry Jeudy? Is there really a huge difference between like Rashid Shaheed at pick 100 and, Jaden Reed at pick 70? Like to me, it just really kind of flattens out. And that's where I think sometimes you see wide receivers getting overdrafted, but I don't know what your take is on this, Davis, or if you have any other different takeaways from this chart.
So, like, obviously everyone listening is like, well, actually, no, Garrett Wilson is way better. And actually, Rashid Shaheed, they're actually totally different archetypes, but you're pointing at what is, I think, a clear truth, which is that most starting wide receivers generally score the same amount of fantasy points. They'll have troughs, and they'll have, like, some weeks Jerry Jeudy will get 21, and some weeks Garrett Wilson will get 4, right? But then it just will kind of all even out. And what you just need to have in a given season is you just need to have the outlier year, right? So like if you have a big position on Jerry Jeudy would have worked out last year because he stayed healthy. The team threw the ball a ton. He ran the most routes in all of the NFL. Could have been an outlier year for Rashid Shaheed last year. Then he got hurt, then Carr got hurt, and it was all a mess, right? And I'm not from the future. I'm not an oracle. I don't know which guy is going to run hot this year. But what I do feel relatively confident in is that the nature of fantasy football will make it such that all these guys are not going to hit their ceilings at the same time. You're not going to have Xavier Worthy and Travis Hunter and Ted McMillan and Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave and Jerry Jeudy and Jauan Jennings. You're not going to have all these guys nut out, right? It's just it's not the way it works. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Big one being passing being so much less efficient. 2020, 7.9 yards per team pass attempt. Last year, 7.3. That is like a devastating. That doesn't sound like much, like 0.6 of a yard. I mean, that is a devastating amount of productivity gained. Like that like wipes out like the kind of like the upper band of like 10% of production for like everyone across the whole league. And a touchdown less per game for all teams too. I mean, that's crazy, right? Something that could improve it would just be, what if there are just less bad teams? That's like, if you think about what so much of the brutal fantasy stuff comes from, it comes from teams that just never score. Like, and that means teams against them. So like last season, the Saints, Jets, Jaguars, Titans, Bears, Raiders, Patriots, Giants, and Browns all scored fewer than 330 points per game, or 330 points for an entire season.
Yeah. So like less than 20 points per game or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is just like, it's just crazy bad. And like, that's why I always say stuff like, I think Tyler Shuck's probably bad, but boy, do I hope he's good. Because imagine the perfect utopia if all 32 teams had good to great quarterback play.
Yeah.
Fantasy football would be amazing.
Yeah. I do think sometimes we miss that with like and I think the market generally does a good job of it, but just like sometimes just being like, hey, this guy's on the Ravens, or like this guy's on the Eagles, or like, I know that those aren't even examples of like high volume offenses, but in half PPR, we're just talking about touchdowns mattering so much. Like, some of that I think sometimes matters more than we think. But Dave, so if you want to put the names on this chart now, I think like maybe you can show some of the examples with like names of what I'm talking about. Like, again, Garrett Wilson, you can make the excuses with his quarterback play. I certainly think he's like a better player than his fantasy scoring has shown, because he's dealt with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and, a bad version of Aaron Rodgers. But like, you look at his best 2 seasons, half PPR points per game. Michael Pittman is better on that metric. Darnell Mooney is like equivalent on that metric. Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy are like the same on that metric. So that's where I just wonder with like some of these guys, like Wilson, JSN, I think you could make the argument with Marv too, is like, I get that their breakout odds should be higher than the other names I mentioned, Olave, Jeudy, Mooney, whatever. But like, are they 4, 5, 6 rounds higher in terms of their breakout odds? That's where I'm like not quite sure. And like, I think my sort of structural approach to drafting this year, to some extent, is to like really prioritize this elite top 12 wide receivers, Jamar Chase through Ladd McConkey-ish. And then after that, I think I'm willing to like play the price game on some of these a little bit. Like Devonta Smith goes around 2 rounds later than Garrett Wilson. I don't entirely understand the reason for that one. Anyways, that's kind of where my head's at.
Well, you know what it is? I think it's a tacit recognition from the market that these players are mispriced. You're not paying for the median projection of these guys. What you're paying for is not even the likelihood of ceiling, but what the ceiling would be. Like, I think you could probably get, like, if the market were a person, right, and we could interview them, I think they'd be like, you know what? Josh Downs and Garrett Wilson probably are going to add about the same amount of points to my fantasy team, and I'm totally okay acknowledging that. But Garrett Wilson's ceiling, like if Garrett Wilson spiked a 17.7 points per game season and half PPR, you'd be like, yeah, sure. I mean, I think there are ways that could happen. You know, if Rome Odunze scores 13 touchdowns this year, you'd be like, well, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but it probably could. Could Rashad Bateman have 1,000-yard season? I don't know, man. I think probably not.
I really like this comment in the chat from Sussheads. You're paying for the quality of lie you can tell yourself about
that.
Is
That's basically pretty good. It's pretty much what we're doing. Yeah, I think the wide receiver market is this. Yeah, and I can lie. Like, I can't really tell myself a good lie about Darnell Mooney, but I can tell myself a pretty good lie about Jalen Waddle, right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what the lie I can tell myself is about Jerry Jeudy with, Dylan Gabriel. I guess he kind of did it last year, basically.
I think the lie on Jerry Jeudy, 90 receptions, 1,300 yards, 4 touchdowns with, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Deshaun Watson, Bailey Zappi. Remember Bailey Zappi started a game last year? Jameis played, but it's not like he played well. Jameis, 7.2 YPA. There probably will be no Browns quarterback this season who gets above 7 YPA. So,
yeah, we'll see. The other, just one name I got to mention here on the chart that stands out, like Michael Pittman. It's extremely boring, but
played with a broken back last year.
Yeah, that's one where I just feel like I've never been like a huge Pittman guy when he was really pricey, but he stands out here as just a guy historically who's had good seasons. He's still young, still on his rookie contract or 5th year in the league. So, whatever, could be on his rookie contract. Especially there with Daniel Jones. I think that provides some floor. Like if it's Richardson the whole season, I don't think you're getting a big win out of Michael Pittman. But I think in the scenarios where it's Daniel Jones and he's just competent, which we've seen at points from Daniel Jones in his career, but both him and Downs, I think, could be pretty good where they go.
See, this to me, the exact opposite of how you should be playing the game. This is a total lack of imagination. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not the worst pick on the board. He's only the worst pick on the board if you think that you are the Oracle, right? If you think you have stared down the future and you can return. This dude got picked top 5 overall. He was like bad, but like basically fine last year. I think he had more yards than CeeDee Lamb had as a rookie, I believe. Sometimes it just takes a little while.
You can tell yourself a quality lie about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s upside, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. I think I'm not really in on Marv this year. I'm not going to go around saying, I was pretty confident. I think you were too, Davis. I remember your truth serum take that Marvin Harrison at the 1-2 turn last year was just one of the worst picks I've ever seen fantasy football people make. That was my opinion. I certainly don't think that this year. I'm not going to be hammering him at pick 30 or whatever.
I think all picks in the first 2 rounds this year mostly make sense.
Yeah, I do too. Just because I think the quality, we don't have to do something like take Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison at the 1-2 turn, because the quality of elite wide receiver depth is just way better. With Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors all being elite as rookies, that's just 3 more guys that we can confidently, in my opinion, I think any of those guys could be first-round picks based on the rookie season. And that just gives us such good depth at wide receiver that I don't think we have to stretch to pull up someone like MHJ like we did last year when we just had no one else to pick. So we're fuck it, we'll price him at the first round for whatever reason. But
first pick that doesn't make sense, 2 Ohio State wide receivers, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Terry McLaurin. Brings me no pleasure to report it, but JSN is going to have to probably play out of position to accommodate an AARP citizen, and McLaurin is the same player he's always been. He just scored 16 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. I don't know if you feel this way, Davis, but I feel like I was like gaslit into thinking that JSN was like the wide receiver 5 overall in fantasy last year. And then you just like go back
he
and
was if you squint at it in a certain way.
yeah, you do some
I believe
splitting.
I believe it's cumulatively he is, but not points per game.
Yeah, maybe it's cumulative or I don't know what it was, but just like I was like, oh yeah, he had a good, like he broke out in his second year. And then you just go back and look at his numbers last year and he was certainly fine. Like he was a good pick where he went in the 6th, 7th round, but he's being drafted ahead of his points per game finish last year.
He was wide receiver 10 in cumulative half PPR points, but he played in every game. These are some guys who scored some more points per game than him. Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams, Steph Diggs, Devonta Smith, Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams. Obviously, like, yeah. So in points per game, he was wide receiver 22.
Yeah. And then we're going from an offense, I think, that last year was top 5 in the NFL in pass rate over expectation. They were letting Geno sling it. I think with the new OC in there, Clint Kubiak comes from a very sort of like more run heavy, play action based offense. You bring in Sam Darnold, who I think you probably want to run more of a run heavy offense with.
Look, man, this does not, you cannot, I will not hear Sam Darnold without KOC being the same thing as Sam Darnold with KOC. I will let you guys say almost anything you want in the chat. I'm not letting us do this.
Yeah. I guess with JSN, it's just the target. I can see like it's Cooper Kupp and then who is the wide receiver 3?
He could have legitimately get like 10 targets per game.
Yeah, the
like
target
180. Yeah.
The target share could be really good. And then maybe their defense is just like so bad that they have to be more run heavy than they want to be. It's just like doesn't strike me as like the highest upside pick at the 2-3 turn. And I'd probably just pass on that for a running back or a Trey McBride or even one of these elite quarterbacks. So I don't really get the JSN price.
I think like it's not like I'm like, oh man, I'm never taking JSN or whatever. I mean, I'm also I'm just drafting like a coward this year, honestly. I'm letting my shitty Wi-Fi do the diversification for me. I just am so scarred from what happened last season.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, the elite quarterback, elite tight end. The floor is yours.
Yeah, this is so this is only looking at 2024. So maybe to give a bit of a fair comp, you want to go to the next one, Davis, to just get the sample a little bit bigger here. Oh, this chart's fucked up. Actually, you know what? Go to the last one. I think like the elite quarterback versus elite tight end debate, I just think is interesting, and I've been digging into it a little bit more as I have time. I think just the general consensus that like elite tight end spike weeks separate more than quarterback is just like not really true when you look at points above replacement. So if you either look at, and this slide doesn't show everything here, but if you just look at quarterback 1 versus quarterback 2, because I think part of the argument for elite tight end is like, okay, when George Kittle has a massive week and he's on your team, no one else is getting even close to you when George Kittle goes for 35. Like all the other tight ends dud, and you get some massive separation. If you just look at like tight end 1 versus tight end 2 weekly separation, quarterback actually last year was slightly higher on that metric. And if you look historically over the last 5 years or so, they're very close. I think quarterback is like slightly higher, and it's like very, very close. So that's just one thing. And then the other way you can look at it, I think, is like points above replacement in terms of not quarterback 1 versus quarterback 2 weekly, but quarterback 1 versus quarterback 12 or 13 or something weekly to get like the replacement level starter. And also by that metric, it's very close between quarterbacks and tight ends. Quarterbacks, again, I think slightly higher if you look at a sample of the last 5 years. So I just wanted to dig into some of these like elite tight end narratives. 'Cause I think a lot of them honestly are based on like what we remember historically from like prime Gronk, prime Kelsey. And you can make the argument we're now in that era again where we have Bowers and McBride, and like those guys are the new prime Gronk and Kelsey. So we can go back to this like tight
Except
end.
they don't score any tuds though.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the main
McBride
problem.
doesn't score any tuds.
Yeah. But also like now I think people just underappreciate like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, and you can probably put Jalen Hurts in this as well. They just like give you insane, especially Allen and Lamar in terms of like the weekly spike weeks they give you on a predictable basis, like year over year. Like when they spike, their separation is like massive versus the field when they have those couple, 3, rushing touchdown games. So I don't know. I know they're priced up. They're kind of now end of the third round. I'm curious what you think of that, Davis. Like the elite tight ends, you have to take Bowers at the 1-2 turn versus elite quarterbacks. You have to take it like the 3-4 turn. Like how do you kind of think about that? Cause to be honest, I don't fully understand the gap.
I think about it in the most middle IQ way possible, which is that I think about it that, hey man, Anthony Richardson can get 28 in week 15, but Jauan Johnson can't. I mean, I really like, I see the truth of the data. Like I'm not blind. I can see that the bigger spike weeks have come at quarterback, and that the mental narrative of, well, quarterback scoring is actually pretty flat. The distributions, quarterback scoring is sort of iterative. They all kind of score between 18 and 26 is like not true.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, man, how many times have I checked my best ball lineups and seen that I got 6 points at tight end?
Yeah.
How many times have I checked and saw, oh, thank you, Tucker Kraft, for your 2 receptions for 18 yards, no touchdowns, and 0 points from Mo Alley Cox this week. Nice 0 points there from whatever guy. And it's also a construction thing where I feel like you could just get it's the pocket of the draft. I don't know how many drafts you've done, but you get to round 8, round 9, and you're like, well, all the best picks here are quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to stomach the 2v2 of Jaden Daniels and Josh Downs versus Xavier Worthy and Brock Purdy. You know what I'm saying? Like it just feels like the second 2v2 feels way better. And also we are in screenshot season, your team looks a lot better when you're doing the post the post draft analysis of your team. Like, dude, sick tight end room, dude. I have McBride and Dallas Goedert killing it, It's just you're just like, wow, I'm doing great. And then you look at the tight end room of I don't know, Dalton Kincaid, Mike Gesicki, and Theo Johnson, and you're like, "What? I'm never gonna win."
Yeah, I get that. The screenshot equity of like a Bowers or McBride team that'll play well with the slappies. The screenshot equity of Josh Allen at ADP team is not gonna get you many likes. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. And I think there's something to like what the data misses to give definitely to like. I guess let me steel man the elite tight end case a little bit. I think what the data misses is that if you just look at replacement level scoring, the replacement level for quarterbacks are guys that are more likely to be drafted. So, and how it actually works on best ball rosters, like the replacement level score at quarterback could be, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, all these guys that like are drafted on 99, 100% of best ball teams. The replacement level score at tight end can be like the tight end 3 for a team that catches 1 pass for 20 yards and a touchdown. And he is like the tight end 14 on the week, if you know what I mean. So in terms of like best ball points above replacement, I think you're like less likely, like you're more likely to have bigger spikes at tight end because like the replacement level scores like might not even be on people's rosters. So they're actually getting like true zeros at tight end because they have Noah Fant and Will Dissly and whoever else. And they actually take a straight up 0 rather than getting the like replacement level score in terms of the weekly tight end 13 finish. It's kind of a complicated, convoluted point, but
well, you're driving at what my intuitive sense is, which is that I can get through a couple weeks with Baker Mayfield and Tua, right?
mhm.
But you are not gonna get through with your round 6 Kyle Pitts, round 10 whoever, round 18 Noah Fant.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
you're dead. You're dead. You just got you maxed out at 4 points in the playoff weeks.
yeah. Although I do think I think both the looking at leg up and ETR ranks, like the tight end tier from Jonnu Smith at 96 to Dallas Goedert at 142 by ADP. I think most of those guys are pretty good values, at least by the ranking system. So that's kind of where I've been playing, grabbing to it. I love getting one of the kind of more boring veterans, even Kelsey, Jonnu, Mark Andrews, pairing one of those guys with a Loveland or a Tyler Warren even. I think that's kind of a fun combo of floor and upside and tight end that I think can compete with the Bowers and McBride on a season-long basis. But, time will tell on that.
I think my heart of hearts is pro Bowers, and Trey McBride is going to be an obvious bad pick in retrospect because he can't score touchdowns on a half PPR site. I'm going to keep drafting Trey McBride, but it will be one of those at the end of the year where you're like, yeah, obviously Trey McBride was a bad pick. He has 9 touchdowns in his last 8 years of professional football. That seems bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then the other thing with Bowers and McBride that I struggle with a little bit is just the difference between, and it's getting closer now. Now it's only a 6 ADP gap, but the difference between Bowers at 16, that's Drake London, Lad McConkey, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry territory. I think that's still very elite running backs and wide receivers that you're choosing from. Whereas McBride at 23, that's where you're kind of in the Garrett Wilson, JSN.
The range where guys are less scary fades.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of I agree with you. I'd rather have Bowers than McBride, but just in terms of even though it's a 6-pick ADP gap, I think the replacement or what's the word I'm looking for? The player you're trading out there is quite different.
Yeah. The tier gap. Well, no, Charlie does point this out. You literally did have to have McBride last year in week 17. This is the most obviously untrue thing Buck has ever said, that Bowers and McBride getting spam targets is not what their teams want to do. That maybe McBride, if the Cardinals probably would trim back his role a little bit and have Marvin Harrison Jr.'s role increase. But
yeah, if you could give them truth serum, they're probably hoping that Marvin Harrison Jr. can be their alpha, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But Bowers, the team is 100% locked into using him as much as possible. And it will also lead to winning. Bowers it's getting Bowers the ball will lead to winning. All right, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, this one, this is kind of maybe an obvious point, but this is just weekly separation of the same kind of thing we were looking at before. So you take quarterback 1 versus quarterback 2 on a weekly basis. What is that average gap for all weeks so this is all weeks from 2019 to 2024 plotted on a line here. So for example, if you look at the running back chart, that first data point on the left here, there around 25 points. That means there was some week, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the Alvin Kamara game where he scored 60 or whatever. There was some week where the running back 1 had 28 more points than the running back 2. That's what's plotted there. And that's plotted for all positions, kind of ranked in order for every week of the last 5 years. And chart shows is I would look at quarterback and tight end and just see how close it is between those two lines, which is basically telling you that if you're making the argument that like, oh, tight end 1 weeks separate more from the tight end 2 on a weekly basis than quarterback 1 week separate from quarterback 2, that's just like not true. They're basically identical historically. So you need some other argument for why elite tight end is better than elite quarterback. And then both of them just really pale in comparison to wide receiver and running back. I think that's something like that's obvious, but like we miss a little bit is like the spike weeks at running back and wide receiver are the ones that like are separating more, like the Jamar Chase 50-point game, the Alvin Kamara massive game. Like you see those games at running back and wide receiver much more than you do at quarterback and tight end. Hence why we draft mostly running backs and wide receivers, in the first 5 rounds. But still thought it was interesting to show on a chart.
But if they is the corresponding takeaway there that if you did run into a Bowers 41 pointer in whatever week, that actually is like insanely overvalued, or undervalued would be the game to end all games in terms of like I'm thinking obviously week 17, but even like the marathon or the sprint where it's like basically the field will not be able to overcome that.
Yeah, I think if you're making the argument that like we should think of Bowers as like an elite wide receiver that has tight end eligibility, if you want to make the argument that we should kind of project him like that going forward, I think you can make the case that he's an extremely valuable asset. And again, like probably where I did the year cutoff, like 2019 to 2024 was relevant here. That was like, I guess there's some peak Kelsey seasons certainly still in here, but this is like post-peak Gronk, post-peak like Jimmy Graham, right? Like, I think you really do have to make the case that like Bowers is like peak Kelsey, peak Gronk level player. Otherwise, tight ends just have such a hard time paying off like the first round ADP. Like it almost kind of always fails unless you have those truly like elite profiles. So I see what you're saying, Davis. Like there is a world where you can imagine, Bowers really breaking fantasy if you can scale up his rookie production going forward. But
I think I would be comfortable calling Bowers a Graham level talent. Would obviously after this point would not be wouldn't say Gronk level, but I would be prepared for that to be the consensus after this year. That Bowers is what's funny is Bowers plays very similarly to Kelsey. Like he could totally
stylistically,
have that, stylistically, where because the thing that has always helped Kelsey is he gets a lot of easy fantasy points, and that is kind of what changed last year was his body doesn't work as well, so he just couldn't get like those like free like 12 yards on the yak stuff. But Bowers is kind of like the yak god at tight end right now.
Yeah. And I think another is like, how much do you believe that like Genty and a healthy Jacoby Myers and a healthy Jack Besh is going to like change the way they do scheme touches in Vegas? Like last year, Bowers was kind of an extension of the run game, heavily used on screens. I think with like weirdly, I think there is some like inverse correlation between how teams use running backs and tight ends in the passing game a little bit. So it'll just be interesting to see if he maintains that insane target share with like another elite playmaker in the offense. We'll see. Maybe going to the next one, Davis, for I think like the last point, and then we probably can put the charts away if you wanted to do a draft or something. The last point I just wanted to make on the elite tight ends is like, I think there's also this perception, again, that I think comes from historical data with like prime Gronk, prime Kelsey, all these like elite tight ends we've had historically, that elite tight ends spike weeks are way more predictable than other positions because they're very highly concentrated in like the top 6 players we draft by ADP each year. Again, if you just look at last 5 years, quarterback versus tight end, it's actually the quarterbacks that are more predictable in terms of spike weeks. Again, it's quite close. Like it depends on how you define the top, tight ends or quarterbacks. But again, like there's
the
not
concept the concept
Yeah.
of minor spike weeks is so Sam Sherman coded. I do love this, Sam. This is really good.
And you can go to if you go to the next one, and I have major spike weeks. So minor is 10 points above replacement. This is 15 plus points above replacement. This is showing the percent of spike weeks that are 15 plus points above replacement that come from the top X players by ADP. So looking at the first one, like the top 4 players by ADP every year, if you look at all the spike weeks over the last 5 years, like 37% of them come from the top 4 quarterbacks by ADP. That is like insanely high. Again, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, these guys have been so predictable at just like giving you spike weeks above replacement. Tight end has just been a little bit less predictable in that you get more of the Taysom Hill at pick 200 getting a spike week in your lineup, like Dallas Goedert going off for a big game when AJ Brown misses. You just get more of like the random tight ends going for big spike weeks than you do at quarterback. So again, I think the elite tight end narrative just needs to like figure out what its argument is a little bit, because I think some of the things that we say about the tight end spike weeks being more predictable or being higher value just like aren't quite true, at least in how I've looked at the data. And I'm open to other people like showing me a better way to look at it. But yeah, that's my rant.
And this basically is the entire name of the game, but I think sort of the subtext over the entire first hour of this discussion is that this is all descriptive analysis based on what has happened last year, 2023, which is not to say that it is useless, right? There certainly is use for all of this stuff, but think about some of the lessons we would have learned from the descriptive data last year that would have been like, well, dude, you can't be taking Saquon Barkley. He doesn't get the goal line touches. Dude, you can't take Derrick Henry. He's a 30-year-old running back. Dude, you can't take Alvin Kamara. Look how bad his efficiency was. So again, not discrediting it. But I do think in general, in games like this, where tail end outcomes are what is rewarded, and actually black marbles don't even matter if you're drafting enough teams. Like if you draft 500 teams and 300 of them finish 12th in your pod, makes no difference if you pull out 3 super teams that all get to the finals, right? You would rather sacrifice some of that advance edge for playoff upside, right? And I mean that there's a lot of different trade-offs to get there. And weirdly, I do think, and we can hop on a draft here soon.
Yeah.
I was kind of anticipating the market to drift further to the running back.
Yeah, it hasn't really.
It
hasn't drifted that. It has a little bit, but I think it was Hayden or someone pointed out that it's still more similar to last year than it was to 2023. So it's still like we're still infected by wide receiver slappyism, even though the data, I love the Hayden chart that was like, it was optimal to have 0 wide receivers, which is so funny. Cause again, like I think Jacob made this point, like clearly from like a playoff construction, like that's not optimal, but it is still so funny that it was optimal from an advance rate perspective to have 0 wide receivers through 7 rounds. But anyways, yeah, I think you're right, Davis, like on the macro point of like, be careful with historical data analysis. I know that's like what we just talked about, but like you got to evaluate the individual player landscape each season. And that's where like I think this year, if you're making the elite tight end case, like you do have 2 pretty exciting tight end profiles in Bowers and McBride. So I'm open to it if you want to say, fuck the historical data. I think I have the next prime Gronk in Brock Bowers and prime Bronco Burr. Like if you want to make that case, then I can understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense to me that the backwards looking analysis would favor no wide receivers through 7 rounds or whatever last year because of how scoring went. We have a sharp consultant drafting here at the 12 hole. People are asking if you're multi-tabling this.
Wait, is that the name of the username? Oh, sharp.
That's literally sharp consultant is sitting here in the 12 hole. Yeah. So yeah,
That's funny.
an hour into the stream. Are you taking Barkley at 2? Are you just letting the market bully you?
I am just I'm kind of letting the market bully me for the first like 12 picks this year. So I'm happy to do that here with Barkley. If you have a strong preference for Jefferson, I don't care.
I don't, but I think we should do a bit because the people wanted it.
Yeah.
They wanted Justin Jefferson at 2. So
well, the tush push didn't get banned.
Did not get banned.
Therefore, Barkley needs to go down. That's the take. I don't actually believe that, but
I don't actually believe it, but I do believe it a little bit.
Yeah. I will say, Davis, with I think the Barkley, like the points per game stats you've been citing, I think they do look a little better if you count the playoff weeks where he just went absolutely insane. The real life playoffs, not the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, but he was bad in the Super Bowl, right? I mean,
I guess I kind of forget now, but
I believe he literally had 8 fantasy points in the Super Bowl.
I guess I'm just thinking, was it the Rams game where first carry of the game was like 80 yards to the house or something? Or
it wasn't. He won them the game. I don't remember. I don't think it was. He had one early, but he had a 70-yard touchdown, 80-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Okay, got it. I might have mixed that up. Gotta go.
This, by the way, just is not true. The Chiefs were just not ready to compete on any level. The Chiefs didn't sell out to stop anything. They just got punched in the face. It has nothing to do with the Chiefs. It was first carry against the Commanders that was to the house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he went against the Rams. He went 26 for 205 and 2 on the ground. Then against the Commanders, 15 for 118 and 3. And then against the Chiefs, yeah, he still had 100 total yards from scrimmage, or 97 total yards from scrimmage, and 6 receptions. So, anyways, I always like counting. Like, I think like a really like dumb but underrated thing in fantasy is just like count the playoff games in your per game averages for players, and you'll just get like weird things that people missed out on because they didn't look at the year where Leonard Fournette like was awesome in the playoffs for the Bucs, and the next year he was really good in fantasy, and like, yeah, I think things like that matter a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Barkley's a good pick. You guys just saw my exposures. I have the overlay sitting there. I have 8% of him, but Jefferson is like the more fun pick. And not only is he the more fun pick, but the 2v2 is like, it's like actually not close.
I actually I'm with you on this with like at the 2-3 turn. I really tend to like the running backs more than the wide receivers. So getting Jefferson here, like is the point you're making, like Jefferson and whoever
Jefferson and Jonathan Taylor is so much better than Saquon Barkley and Garrett Wilson or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Wow, got 2 robust running back drafters here back to back.
I mean, McCaffrey at 17 is a gift. I have him ranked. I mean, this guy, how did he get, I guess, Ladd early? So we have some piss boys, I guess. And then a Josh Jacobs.
Derrick Henry in the first too. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. Interesting.
Wow. That is a high T. That is a high T grouping. This right here is drafting like last year is just going to repeat. Taking Barkley and Jonathan Taylor together is just saying, what I just saw is happening again for sure, which is the way a lot of people draft, to be fair.
Actually, yeah.
I have McCaffrey ranked 9 right now.
I was hoping Taylor would fall there.
So that we did get screwed there. I'll do whatever. I don't care.
I'm actually okay with, I know we just talked anti-elite tight end, but I'm good with McBride here given everyone else that's available. I haven't taken much McBride this year, which has not been super intentional. So
we wouldn't have gotten McBride come around and all these wide receivers project like super similarly.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the 3.
Wow,
Oh, wow.
this draft is crazy, dude.
Yeah,
Josh Allen at 24.
Did we inspire some people with the elite quarterback is undervalued charts? Maybe we did.
Man. Well, knowing that all those running backs would have gone, I actually probably would have taken Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I think we do T. Higgins for the bit.
We're taking T. Higgins. T. Higgins.
This is basically Josh Palmer, but on the Bengals, which is good.
This is fantasy football in a nutshell. You have to be humble enough. No, truly, you have to be humble enough to know that your foresights are so limited. Truly.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it, man. Unless you are, who's the guy who advanced like 80% of his teams? FFB Wizard, like literally advanced like 100 teams in Best Ball Mania last year. Like unless you come from the future with a crystal ball, you should just be like, I mean, you guys can see my exposures right here. I have like between 6 and 18% of like everyone in the pool. Don't have very much Kyron.
Yeah. Kyron, the worst. So I think we had the question earlier of like, who are the worst picks on the board? For me, I think it's Tyreek Hill. And I get how it like makes me look really stupid if like last year was just some weird fluke. And then first play of the season next year, Tyreek Hill just takes like an 80-yard pass to the house. And we're like, okay, well, he might be back. But he declined significantly in like all the metrics, all the numbers last year, even if you split out the games where Tua was missing. And he's a year older. He's what now? Age 31 season. And there's all this like weird offseason stuff where he's been like tweeting about not wanting to be on the team. He even like quit on the team late in the season last year a bit. It's just like, I don't know what you think on Tyreek Davis, but he's been the worst pick on the board for me. That would be my answer.
I mean, the black marble season with Tyreek is so obvious that I wonder if it's actually not obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if he's so obviously a bad pick that like maybe he's not a bad pick. like we're his worst ever efficiency season. His wrist is still injured. He just had another cleanup procedure on the wrist. The offensive line was one of the worst offensive lines in football last year. I believe all their additions were rookies on the offensive line. So like sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad. Let me tell you, if you think that the last season was a black marble for Tyreek, I would encourage you to just Google or go to Pro Football Reference and just go look at some of your favorite wide receivers of all time. Go like look at like Randy Moss's last season. Go look at the last time Randy Moss was a first round pick. Randy Moss was a first round pick. This is true. When he was a member of the Tennessee Titans, and he generated that final season 28 receptions, 393 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's always scary when this is a little bit of the argument I was making with Cup last year. Like his 2023 season wasn't awful, but like compared to his peak, it was still a big drop off. And that's sometimes what I look for more in these aging wide receivers is like just not just how good was their numbers on like an absolute basis, but how good was it relative to their peak? And that sometimes is a signal of like, are they falling off? Which we obviously saw with Cup last year. It doesn't always happen though. Sometimes these guys certainly can bounce back. So
Neil, black marble is you pull marbles out of a jar, you keep taking Tyreek, and then once you pull the black marble, it's over. Then it's done, right? It's like a probability game.
Bit of a weird room we have in this draft.
We do have a weird room. So we are better at fantasy sports now than we used to be, obviously. But the year before he went to 0, the year before Randy Moss went to 0, he went 83, 1,313. So it just happens. Particularly at wide receiver, it happens. Generally speaking, wide receivers will go to 0 in the blink of an eye. It'll just be done.
Yeah, Julio Jones. That basically happened.
Julio Jones. I mean, there are many of these. There are many of these guys.
I would have liked.
It's Adam Harstad's goal. I mean, I think it's definitely you never get Travis Hunter on the left side of the board. I don't think really, but I'll do whatever.
I'm good with Hunter. It's the ADP
The people need your. Let's make this next pick, and then I will give you the floor to do your diatribe on taking a a quarterback in the 4th round of fantasy football drafts.
Yeah, I mean we get points for pick 6s, right?
Yes. So I actually think we should take RJ Harvey here. We are pretty far behind at running back. There will be at least one running back we like coming back around. What do you think? Or we could just take Sutton.
Yeah, let's do Sutton here. If you're
all right, we're doing it. We're doing a true slap experience here.
This is. I was thinking. So maybe we should have taken Harvey.
We should have taken Harvey probably.
Yeah. Anyways, the Travis Hunter take. I am weirdly so I get that my brand would be
your brand
be
would be
Hunter.
Not only is this the worst pick of this year, but the worst pick in the history of fantasy football. Yeah. This is basically this like I actually cannot think of anything more slappy than Travis Hunter going ahead of like a guaranteed 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and Courtland Sutton. Like I can't. It's the perfect encapsulation of what the average underdog drafter is hoping to accomplish in the rooms, which is just to always take the youngest possible player at every pick.
Yeah. The thing with Hunter though is I guess like he was a 2nd overall pick in the draft. Last year you would have had to pay for that. You had to pay 1st round for Marvin Harrison or 2nd round for Malik Neighbors prices. Basically, we're getting him close to the 5th round. Like I guess it just depends. Like how much do you believe? What it really comes down to is how much do you believe they drafted him for his wide receiver ability versus for his both ways ability, and like we should discount his draft capital because of that. I don't know, man. I don't. I wish I had like a hot take on Hunter to
frankly,
going,
my hot take is that I think we're like actually not going to see him that much defensive back. I think that's at this point. I think the new party line of the slap community is this dude's a unicorn. Why wouldn't he play both ways? Right.
Yeah.
I think my hot take is that his body type and his speed and his proprioception are way more valuable at wide receiver than they are at corner. And with the moves they made at wide receiver, so they cut Kirk, they cut Gabe Davis, they cut Evan Ingram, they don't draft another wide receiver. Their other wide receivers are De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington, and guys I don't know. I think they all but forecast like, yeah, dude, we're screwed if he's not wide receiver.
Yeah.
We're like actively like we shot this Liam Cohen reinvents Trevor Lawrence experiment in the foot if he can't play wide receiver. And all the stuff coming out of Jaguars mini camp right now is wide receiver. It's all been he's practicing wide receiver. I don't even know if he's played defensive back in camp yet.
Yeah, I think I saw some report that he was like getting mixed in a little bit on defense, but that does seem to be the consensus. And I just want to put faith in Liam Cohen. Like he got the most out of all his players last year. Like Chris Godwin, very good wide receiver, but he had Chris Godwin performing at like career levels when he was
1.7 yards per route run, or 1.83 yards per route run the 3 years before, 2.2 yards per route run last year before he got injured.
And also if you look up the Jalen McMillan like highlight reel from last year, that was a Liam Cohen highlight reel, to be honest.
That was you know what he was? That was some Gabe Davis ass production.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
So I just believe in the offense. I'm a Trevor Lawrence guy as well. I think we should go with one of the running backs here.
Well, I was gonna say this room kind of gave it to us here in a weird way because they took Jacoby Myers early. They took so I think we definitely take James Conner.
Yeah.
Just
you got the Arizona correlation a little
And
bit.
then we can either take old guy Pollard or we could take Judkins.
Yeah, I haven't taken. For me, it's really hard to see the Judkins upside this year. Oh,
Well,
he's
there you
gone.
go.
Who else is available at running back?
Or we could take Olave.
He did fall a lot past.
We could take
ADP.
Olave and make this a 6 running back team, or a 6 wide receiver team.
Let's go with the Olave pick. I mean, he is like 10 picks past ADP, and we just need to take one more wide receiver, basically.
Yeah, and actually we're extra good because all of our wide receivers have different bye weeks. We've got Kyler live, Shuck live, Nick's live, Lawrence live. Who took where'd Joe Burrow go? Joe Burrow went at 56 to the Chase Brown drafter, which is like I don't know, that's I think that's
fine. I think
that's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got no. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but it's not like.
I think if you do that and you grab Gesicki, then that's totally fine.
Yeah,
it's not
5 wide receiver, 1 DB team, unique build. I think it is. The Travis Hunter thing is like he's a totally fine pick, dude. He's just like clearly a fine pick.
It's just like it depends how much higher he creeps up. I think where we got him is totally fine. Because you're again, this is like the tier where wide receiver. Like I think you're kind of like out on the really high upside bets at wide receiver. It's kind of flattened out. 2nd overall pick, offense we can be excited about. I think it's fine. I'll find a way to be a hater at some point for the brand, but I think it's fine.
This is you think Jalen McMillan is an AJ Green level alpha? That's crazy, dude. We're talking about the wide receiver. We're talking about the wide receiver 3 on his college team and the wide receiver 3 of his NFL team. That's
wide receiver
crazy,
4
dude.
of his NFL team right now, I think.
Oh, he's saying Tet.
Oh, that makes some sense.
I mean, Hunter definitely is a more unique and special player based on my ability to observe football games than Ted is. Not saying he will be a better NFL player, but Tet plays and is built like many other successful NFL wide receivers. Hunter has far more unique on-field traits, I think, based on my observations.
I mean, I think anyone that's like pretending they like can project what's going to happen with him in the NFL is
insane.
Like lying.
Yeah. You got no. I have no idea. You have no idea. This is. I mean, I would imagine the Jaguars don't really have much of an idea. They're like,
yeah,
we're gonna try.
Like, there's no example of a guy that was taken number 2 overall, and we're not sure what position he's going to play, but he's probably going to play wide receiver. Like, I don't know.
Okay, this is a crazy comp. Crazy. Do you know what it kind of reminds me of situationally? Tebow.
Okay.
Not the same because Tebow was like Tebow was athletic, but it was basically like some people would be like Tebow is obviously going to be awesome in the NFL. And then some people would be like, dude, obviously he's not going to work in the NFL. He's got the worst throwing motion of all time.
There's some positional uncertainty. People are like, he should be a tight end.
He should be a fullback. He should be a linebacker. He should be actually, you know what? Tebow does make sense because he was a 1st-round pick. But, and by the way, no one would think about this with me. I loved Tebow.
Really?
As a football, oh my God. I was like the first one to be like, Tebow is awesome for fantasy. But the even better comp is Terrell Pryor, a legitimate position switch in the NFL, but a guy who was so preternaturally athletic that it worked out.
Yeah.
I think it's really similar.
All right, so I guess here we basically, I feel like we really shouldn't take wide receiver for a while.
No, we definitely take one of our quarterbacks here.
Yeah,
and then we can take a Warren, a Mason, a Scadaboo.
I like the Kyler pick.
Yeah, I think Kyler is definitely the pick.
Yeah.
And then we are gonna be pissing green for a while here.
How's your week 17 game at this point, Davis? Because I'm pretty rusty.
I know all of it.
Okay.
I also have it up in the real-time assistance tool here, so we're chilling. I think we should take Jordan Mason because we have Jefferson.
Let's do it. Yeah, I like that correlation. Haven't taken a lot of Mason, but I think it's decent pick there. We definitely need a running back. I've been taking a lot of Aaron Jones, actually. I think they're both like pretty solid picks. I think they'll be pretty run heavy in Minnesota this year, and it should be a pretty good offense. But
my experience with Aaron Jones is every week he would be in my highest sim ROI lineups. And so I would play Aaron Jones every week on DraftKings, and every week he would get between 13.5 and 16.5 DraftKings points, and some other running back would just like at his same price tag would just easily outscore him. So he was losing passing down work to Cam Akers, you know.
Yeah, he definitely got banged. He started off hot, kind of got banged up, and it seemed like they rested him a bit down the stretch. So
he's always getting banged up.
Yeah.
Like eternally he has been getting banged up. That's like his whole deal. So I'm making huge Mason's got to be one of my most drafted running backs. Let me check. Drafts completed. I think my most drafted wide receiver is Ricky Pearsall, so I need to probably lower that down.
I'm the opposite. I looked and I had like no Pearsall for some reason. I'm like, I don't actually believe that. I got to start. We got to
actually, maybe I have more of them in slows. I only have 12% of Jordan Mason. My most drafted running back. Who do you think is the most slappy running back pick on the board to be my number one exposure? You should be able...
Tootin.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah. That's obvious. Yeah, no. If you like Bashal Tootin at 120, you're gonna love him at 190 later this offseason, Davis.
Okay. Jaden Blue is only my fourth most drafted running back.
Blue, yeah.
Thank you very much. Brashard Smith is my third most drafted running back. You know what? My running back too, though, insanely, it's right wing slappy, which you've actually missed out on this discourse. Roschon Johnson.
That is right wing. Yeah, that's right wing slappy. I don't think the Bears running back, they don't even have a left. I guess DeAndre Swift is neutral at this point. Roschon's right wing. I don't know the left wing slappy.
Roschon and Swift are still somehow both right wing slappy. So which means huge error by the Bears not adding a left wing slappy running back. You know, everyone knows a backfield needs to have the right wing slappy option, the left wing slappy option, and the centrist option.
Yeah.
But Kyle Monangai, not a left wing slappy because he's not fast. He doesn't catch passes. The only good stat anyone has about Monangai is that he never fumbled. That's all you got. Nothing else about Kyle Monangai is good.
Travis Homer might be. No, he's not even anything. He's like Green Party.
That's Sam Sherman. He's the Jill Stein. He's the Jill Stein. Yes, a left wing slappy, sure. Yeah, Burden extension.
Yeah, that's smart.
Left wing slappy is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are just gonna, or the Chicago Bears are gonna throw the ball about 715 times.
Yeah.
This oh man, I don't even want to say anything because I want this guy to get to us. It's actually kind of a dream. Here's a question: will this dude take Bo Nix?
Oh, interesting.
Because if not, we should definitely take Bo Nix.
Yeah, I agree.
The Bears coaching staff said who when they were asked about Monangai. Old enough to yes, you are old enough to remember.
Yes.
He was a huge like one of the
biggest.
Furthest left. Yeah, he was like basically the AOC of running backs.
The Swift versus Montgomery.
I think we slam Charbonnet here. This is huge.
Yeah, let's do it. And
getting him here is big as our running back 3. That is is that way far after ADP? No, I guess not that far.
That's a little bit. Nix here would be nice. If this guy doesn't take him.
I don't
We'll
think
see.
he needs a wide receiver big time. This dude
Yeah.
has 3 wide receivers.
Dalton
Nope,
Kincaid.
Kincaid. This guy's living. This guy's on his own. He's having a good time. This dude's having a nice. There you go. He takes.
So I figured out like a way to tell like when it's over for a player. This is like the general rule, and I agree. We should just take Nick's here. It's over for a player when the arguments start to be they're really injured, and that's a good thing. That's what we're getting with Dalton Kincaid now. Is like,
yes.
He was really injured last.
Oh no. The McKinsey Institute internet
Pitts after his down season was like, oh no, don't worry. He was really injured. And then like the logic of spinning like, oh, he's really injured and that's a good thing. That's generally when it's over for Cade.
Yes, the best argument for Dalton Kincaid at this point is that both of his MCLs were unhealthy last season, and his MCLs are now clearly going to be recovered, right?
Yeah,
it's not great.
It's not great.
I think I might have cured myself of Kyle Pitts disease for this season, because the new coaching staff has already started giving the same, like, I guess not that new of a coaching staff, but they've started to give the same answers as last offseason. Like, yeah, this motherfucker just is not trying. He's not fast. He can't do anything.
I saw that quote where the coach is basically, we're just like asking Kyle Pitts to run fast out there. That's what we keep reminding him. And it reminds me of a little bit of like this is kind of a deep cut, but do you remember like back in the day with Kevin White, where there was the reports of like coaches are sitting down with Kevin White and showing him his college film to like remind him how good he used to be. Like that's a little bit of the vibes I'm getting with Kyle Pitts now. It's like they're trying to like coax something out of him, but I don't think he has the juice anymore, sadly.
No, there is Kelvin Benjamin's actually a pretty good comp for Kyle Pitts, a guy who we thought was good, turned out was not good, but did get a bunch of targets as a rookie. Yes, they did the college film thing with Javonte Williams.
Yeah. That's not a good sign.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Tough scenes. But
tough.
All right. So this is where we're at, Sam. Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, James Conner, Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Travis Hunter, Courtland Sutton, Chris Olave, Trey McBride.
Interesting build.
Pretty slappy.
Yeah, I think we definitely probably priority still to get some more running back firepower, but we can mix in. I mean, I think we're at the point where we could mix in a wide receiver pick if the right value comes. I guess with Nix and Murray, one of like Pat Bryant or Michael Wilson.
Yeah, Pat Bryant is probably yes. Sam, something happened to your video at some point, but your audio is coming through fine, so it's whatever.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's the oh man, I was gonna try and make a Severance joke, but I didn't watch Severance. So I actually like
they saw that I was streaming and they severed me to come back to work. Yeah, it's something.
Yes,
like
that. There's some sort of severance. Like there would have been a really good Severance bit for me to do there, but I couldn't get there. I would. You
haven't watched Severance, dude? You got to watch Severance. It's so good.
See, you've missed so much. There's this whole argument that I have with the entirety of the ship chasing Discord that the way people talk about Severance just like belies the downfall of Western civilization and how we used to read and like think about like novel philosophical ideas, and now we just watch our fucking slop from Apple TV and just breathlessly speak about how creative it is.
So are you not a Last of Us guy either?
No, I like The Last of Us, and I watched it and am watching it. I think we take Bigsby here.
I don't know if
actually,
I'm still here. Something's going on with my internet, Davis.
It is.
Can you hear me?
We're gonna take. Yes, I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me. I'm taking Tank Bigsby.
Okay. I think I'm back now.
We took Tank Bigsby as our running back 4, which is
Yeah.
you know,
We needed a right wing
pretty
slappy to
flappy.
balance out the left wing slappies.
Tank is because it's all based on, he doesn't but he doesn't wear gloves. That's pretty right wing slappy.
That,
God,
that is right wing slappy coded.
This dude took Pat
Motherfucker.
Bryant. I think we should take Tucker Kraft here. This is just a huge ADP value, or we could take Jalen Knoll.
I'm good with Kraft. Not the same bye week. Yeah.
No.
Whatever.
Yes. This is, I mean, that is like a 20 spot, or like a 15 spot ADP value. And now we can be done at both of the onesies and keep hammering.
Yep.
Man,
yep, I like that.
I have never in my life experienced what the people who like Devon Bailey feel. It's truly this dude who had 41 receptions and 3 touchdowns as a 27-year-old last year. He is mentioned in best ball streams more than any other player, I think. Like, he's discussed more often than Christian McCaffrey.
I don't really get it with him either. I remember like at one point he had some like weird game in like week 7 last year where he had a bunch of targets, and I was writing that article for ETR where I was looking at that film of like breakout players, and I turned on the Devon Bailey film, and after about 10 minutes I was like, this guy's basically a tight end. Like he was just catching like check and releases. Like he's like barely a wide receiver. He's like, I don't know what the comp is for him. But like he was basically being used as like very not even just a slot wide receiver, but like very close in line to the line of scrimmage and like blocking dudes and then leaking out into the flat. Like, yeah, I don't get it either what the Devon Bailey thing is. I think he just had to play because their wide receivers were so brutal last year. So they needed someone out there.
And now they replaced him. Although Joey, who is an Illinois fan, thinks that this is a bit rich. Well, yeah. I think round 13 probably is a bit rich.
This is the peak of rookie ADPs, I think, like late May, early June. I think this is the point where like people are entering drafts like, oh, I got to get the rookies before they go even higher. And that just like brings them higher and higher. And then all of a sudden we'll get the like camp reports that are like, yeah, obviously like the running back that got drafted in the 4th round is like 4th in the depth chart. And then they'll all fall. It's usually what happens.
Yeah. All right. Who are some of the Sam Sherman gotta have it late round picks at running back?
Gotta have it late round picks at running back. A couple guys that are kind of obvious. Tyler Algier, I think, is just like way mispriced. He's gone now. So, but I think like you're just getting such a locked in handcuff that we know is pretty good. I do like, in terms of like a bit later, both Jalen Wright and Will Shipley, I'm pretty in on as like, I think guys we can be reasonably confident are the RB2 and have still some like untapped, maybe they're good upside. Obviously contingent plays for both those guys. After that, I do kind of like the Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum thing, like both those guys in the Rams.
Both of them.
Yeah. But Miles, the grossest one is Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah. That's a brand play for me.
There was some good coach speak from the Dolphins running back coach yesterday on Jalen Wright. He was the first running back mentioned by the running backs coach.
Yeah, I just don't get like the last year it was like the whole like 2 outs to contingent upside or whatever that thing was that we used to justify taking an RB3 in the 10th round. And now there's just one running back ahead of him and we're way less interested. I don't get like, unless people think Ollie Gordon, I don't know. He was what, a 7th round pick? Like didn't they trade a future 3rd to get Jalen Wright? I feel like they're still pretty high on him. Let's see. Oh, we could take Braylon's not bad here.
I think Braylon's good here.
Yeah.
Wow. Getting You were a Braylon Allen hater. Crane was a Braylon. Many people were Braylon Allen haters.
Yeah, I might have been.
Still one of the youngest players in the National Football League. I'm trying to see if there's any wide receiver that. Well, we could take Michael Wilson here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Boring, but I think with the stack, I think that's the play, right? Like, don't overthink it. They still didn't. It's crazy how they didn't add anything to this wide receiver. It's still like Wilson, Dortch, and Zay Jones, right? Like that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and I want to say maybe Zay Jones is not even under contract anymore.
Okay.
Let me fact check myself. Zay Jones is on a 1-year, $2.4 million contract, but he can be cut for like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Like Michael Wilson, I mean, it's like you're paying for routes basically, which isn't always the best, but when we have Kyler, it makes a lot of sense.
They did bring in Semi Fehoko.
Oh. So. They got Quez Watkins too. So
wow, not Quez Watkins, dude.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do we got at this point? What do we?
We definitely need. I think we could conceivably. We only have one overlapping set of buys, Hunter and Wilson. So we could conceivably just be done at wide receiver. We also could take. I like taking De'Ami Brown with Travis Hunter because if there are some weeks where they decide that he is better at corner for whatever reason, they're like, oh, we need you to be a corner this week or whatever. De'Ami's going to eat all those routes. Not that De'Ami Brown is going to be a league winner, but
have you thought about the Travis Hunter Tank Bigsby correlation? Like Travis Hunter gets an interception, runs it back to the 1 yard line. Tank Bigsby punches it in for the touchdown. Not a lot of people are talking about that.
Not a lot of people are talking about that, and that just shows that the best ball space is you're sort of missing your ingenuity, and
the RTA tools aren't gonna tell you that.
Yeah, let's just be clear. Like the people who are programming the Sidekick and the Solver and the Draft Caddy just do not know that the interception rate for Travis Hunter is directly correlated to how good of a pick Tank Bigsby is.
Yeah, math just can't really figure that one out for some reason, but I'm sure they're working on it. But
yeah, Leone and all of his data scientists are deep in the mines trying to figure that out. I did see some positive coach speak on Jermaine Burton yesterday, which really did make me think people will believe anything, right?
That's when your X algorithm is a little bit out of whack. If you start getting Jermaine Burton hype, the misinformation lever is cranked up a little too high there.
In all seriousness, there's no way that Travis Hunter's pick sixes would not count because fumble recovery touchdowns count, kick return touchdowns count, punt return touchdowns count. So there's no way that if Travis Hunter did, like if you remember when Deron Bland had like a pick six for like 6 weeks in a row or whatever, if that did happen for Travis Hunter, there's no way you would not be getting those points.
Yeah. And sadly there's no way for us to find out if you actually would, but I'm sure you do. I'll touch like the Trey McBride fumble recovery in the end zone last year. That counted as a touchdown for him. So why not a pick six?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're up in 2 picks. We have 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 wide receivers. We definitely need at least one more running back here. What we have to decide is, do we need like an adult? Like, do we need like a Jaleel McLaughlin or like an Audric Estime or a Miles Sanders? Like a guy who just like is like for sure going to be active in week 1 because of how sketchy are. We also have a lot of week 8 buys.
Yeah, I kind of like playing it with. Oh shit! I wanted to get Jarquez Hunter, but the buy thing is kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. We should take Woody Marks. Woody Marks is like Nyheim Hines on the Texans.
I'm good with Marks.
I don't even, man, you want to talk about a prospect I hated. I did not like Woody Marks. We could take our last wide receiver here.
Yeah, I was thinking like 2-7-7-2 makes sense. Arizona versus who in week 17?
The Bengals, and then Denver plays Kansas City.
Okay. I like the Diami Brown pick if you want to go back to that. I know that's not week 17 correlation, but
it's another week 8 bye.
Okay.
You know what? At wide receiver, that doesn't matter though. Actually, I think
we have pretty spread out buys at wide receiver. Yeah,
I do. That is one of my favorite little correlations. Actually, is the Diami Brown, Jermaine Burton, or Diami Brown Travis Hunter thing. I got Jermaine Burton on the thing.
Yeah, I had not thought about Jermaine Burton yet this offseason, and I don't plan to think about him anymore.
The only players I ever think about are Travis Hunter and Devon Vele. I mean, just like it's basically like I just wake up in a dead sleep and I say, why is there a 28-year-old rookie wide receiver on the Denver Broncos roster?
Yeah, why are people talking about the wide receiver 5 on the Broncos roster? I don't know. So we can probably wrap up here with a home run swing at running back, 2-7-7-2 slappy build.
Yeah, I mean, between Mason, Sharps, Bigsby, like most weeks, one of those guys should get like 11 or whatever. I mean, look, this I don't disagree with. Andre Yoshi Voss is like, I don't know, man. It's like,
I don't know what the point is. He's like he's like the what's a good example? He's like the Rondale Moore of James Jones's, basically.
He's the Alec Pierce of DeMarcus Robinson's.
Yeah, that's fair too. No,
he's the DeMarcus Robinsons of Tyler Boyd's. That is so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's the Quez Watkins of Trenton Irwin's. Like, I just don't get the ceiling there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. He's the final evolution of Trenton Irwin's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did score a bunch of touchdowns last year.
He is a 100% owned BBM pick. Who this is the kindest thing you can say about him is that he could catch a touchdown.
Yeah. I guess on our Cardinals team, we could have considered. Well, he's not even available. Yoshi Voss got. I'm surprised his ADP is that high. I guess that's just the Burrow drafter bringing him up. But
it's got to be like in terms of like combinatorial ownership. I can actually check this. Not in Firefox. I can't. But there's the Caddy has combinatorial ownership.
Oh, that's cool.
I would guess Yoshi and Burrow have to be some of the highest combo ownership players in the entire pool.
It's got to be that and like Josh Palmer and Josh Allen. Like who else is drafting Josh Palmer at pick 150?
Man, you actually have no, like, there are so many people who love Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer has like a legion of folks.
I drafted some Josh Palmer last year. I gotta raise my hand for that one. That did not end well. But yeah, I don't really get it this year. I guess if you have Josh Allen, fair enough. But we still got both the Rams guys available, right?
Yeah, and I think either of them are fine. I mean, between Mason, Sharp, and Bigsby, we should have a guy who's live.
Our week 8 will be bad, but whatever. I think those guys are
week 8 is not the only thing that matters. Now tell me that these things are related. The man Burton bull posting then says, I was a Josh Palmer guy. Tell me if a lesson was learned from either of those things, sir.
Yeah. Josh Palmer.
You want to take? We could. I guess. I think Corum on this team because I have 21% of Hunter and like 2% of Corum.
Sure,
So
I'm good with
take Corum.
I'm good to mix that up for you.
Or Brashard Smith as a bring back on Denver.
I have no idea. I feel like I'd rather go with Corum, to be honest.
See, you're out of practice. You don't know that Brashard Smith is our generation's Deneric Prince.
Oh, okay. What's the thesis with him? Would he be like the Jerick McKinnon role?
He would be the Jerick McKinnon. Yeah,
yeah.
He'd be the new McKinnon. That's the thesis.
I think the idea of just fading all the day 3 Chiefs rookies generally has worked out for me. Now Pacheco, it did work, but besides that, I feel like for whatever reason the fantasy community just obsesses over the Chiefs day 3 skill position players, and hit rate is quite
historically it's been because so many of their starters are so ass that you're like, well, why can't this day 3 guy play? Right?
Yeah.
It's like when it was DeMarcus Robinson and Juju Smith-Schuster and Sammy Watkins and Darrell Williams were the players you had to vault. It was pretty easy to be like, well, yeah, surely these guys will start.
Yeah, that's how we got Sky Moore in the 7th round or whatever as a rookie, right? Like, just there's no one else. Is Sky Moore even still on the team, by the way? I was thinking about that the other day. Still on the roster?
I believe because they stashed him on the IR for all of last season. Sky Moore, technically the wide receiver 5 or 4, depending on where you want to put him in the hierarchy of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. They still got Justin Ross, too.
They still have Justin Ross. They still have Tyquan Thornton.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. We drafted Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, James Conner, Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Braylon Allen, Woody Marks, Blake Corum, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Travis Hunter, Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave, Michael Wilson, De'Ami Brown, Trey McBride, and Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird team. I haven't built a lot of structures like this. I think like if we could go back and do it over, knowing the values the room gave us at wide receiver, we probably take Barkley over Jefferson in the first, and we like this team a little bit better. But given what the room gave us, like I think taking Olave as our wide receiver 5, like that maybe looks weird on the surface, but that was 10 picks past ADP. Like,
so had we obviously had the foresight that we could get Olave at 74, we probably would have just taken Harvey over Sutton.
Yeah.
And well, really, we could have even taken Olave at 71, right? And then taken James Conner still, or Quinshon Judkins, or whoever. So obviously you can never know. With perfect foresight, but yeah, that was I think for like a true 0 RB team. That's not. I guess I don't know. Maybe some 0 RB zealots would say if you take 2 running backs in the first 10 rounds, it's not true 0 RB. But I mean, every year that Best Ball Mania has existed, 0 running back teams have had above average advance rates, above average finals rates. So
yeah, and I think this is the way to do. I think what the mistake people make with the 0 RB is if they like take 5 wide receivers in the first 7 or whatever we did, they then tack on another one in the 10th and another one in the 11th or something. Like, I think what we did was right here, where we got 5 really early, wait till the very last rounds to get your final 2, and like use the rest of those rounds to invest in other positions. So I think overall it's a smart build. Maybe, we just need things to break right at running back, and this team could be fun.
I mean, famous last words. Just need things to break right at running back. Now, I'm sure I've never said those words on a stream before.
No.
All right, Sam. That was a great journey through the charts, through the draft rooms. Are you missing us? Do you think often about our journey through ADP? How much drafting have you been doing?
I've done I think I'm at like 30-ish drafts. I didn't do any pre-draft stuff, so I kind of tuned out for that. But then post-draft, I've done about 30, mostly like puppies and some BBM. So I've been mixing in a little bit. I'm a big cardio club guy, so I do a lot like just at the gym.
Sam, you missed cheap Justin Fields. Now he's prime price again. You missed him. You missed him when he was free.
Yeah, I know. Now I've been thinking through my Justin Fields take. I gotta figure out what side of the aisle I'm gonna be on that one. But I do miss you guys on ADP chasing. I've been tuning in, hoping that we can do a show at some point later this summer. It'd be fun to do a reunion show and like go over the tight end 3 on the Chargers or something like that on a slide. So we'll figure something out.
Dude, you don't know about a Rondé Gadsden?
Yeah, the Will Dissly versus Tyler Conklin by the numbers charts is in the works. So we'll have something there later this offseason, I'm sure.
I guess we got through that entire draft without talking about Tyler Warren, because Tyler Warren is like basically irrelevant to fantasy football this year. But man, would that have made really good prime ADP chasing discourse?
I know it would have. He's where is he going now? He's like getting close to 130, right?
He's like the tight end 13, I think.
Yeah, it's starting to get interesting, but yeah,
not that Anthony Richardson's like 4th target. I don't know if he's that interesting, man. I can't say he's that interesting. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. If you want more fantasy football content, patreon.com/DavisMatic. Link to that is in the description. And I'll be back with you guys with another fantasy football stream tomorrow. Sayonara.
It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King